in the end, you have the power to change your life. You may not think it at times. I certainly didn't 9 years ago. Today, you have the power to change your life. It may be, getting another job or getting another position in the job, but there's so many resources, both face-to-face and virtual, that are out there and people willing to help, that you just don't ever give up hope.
What's going on, everybody? Thank you for tapping into another episode of the Mindful Moneymakers podcast, where we give you all the tips, tricks, and mindset shifts you need to make if you want to live by design instead of by default. Today, we're speaking with another powerful leader in the space who's going to share his experience, his personality, and his time with you to help you overcome challenges related to homelessness and teach you a little bit about the power of sales. Today, we're talking with Bill Becker, who is a retired sales and marketing pro, now taking his superpowers to work on homeless initiatives and evangelizing about sales careers. Bill spent 35 plus years in marketing and technology sales. Focusing on non-traditional revenue streams, he opened new markets and developed multiple programs to land multi-million-dollar clients. He first started evangelizing about sales careers after spearheading the retraining of workers affected by 9/11 layoffs. So super powerful stuff. Hey, Bill, let me bring you on stage. Thank you for spending the time with us today. How are you?
I'm wonderful. Happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
Yes, indeed. I've been looking forward to our conversation ever since our little pre-interview, because I think that you're doing, God's work. You're really focusing on the portion of the community that capitalism tends to overlook, and to use, I think, in my opinion, the most capitalistic approach to capitalism, sales. To do that is very interesting. So I introduced you a little bit. Could you tell me a little bit more about how we came to be?
Sure. So I'm just a guy that my entire career. Well, since you said I had a 35-year career, I need to point out I started when I was 9. So I don't want people to think I'm old or anything. But all I ever did was sales. It was in radio sales, and then transferred into IT sales the last 20 years or so of my career. And yeah, it's interesting that the two passions. So I got to retire early in November of 2022, and I had, two things I wanted to do. I wanted to, talk about sales careers, not how to sell, but why someone should consider a sales career, because I've seen so many people's lives change. And what's going on in today's world, that not only do you have unemployment, we have underemployment. And I could actually make a case that unemployment in some ways is better, because if you don't have a job, at least you have that sliver of hope. It's like, you know what, once I get a job, everything's going to be better, right? But then you find yourself working 40 hours a week, you're busting your butt, and you still can't make ends meet. You're underemployed. And so the great thing about a sales career, professional selling, not some of the, sleazier sides of sales, that there's no barrier to entry. There's no education requirements. You don't have to have experience. I mean, that's one of the big things I talk about in my books and my writings and everything, is you can get a sales job not only without experience, but the company isn't even hiring someone right now. I did it several times throughout my career. And then it kind of just dovetailed with my passion for the homelessness situation, that, years and years ago, it was actually Dennis Miller. I need to give the dude credit. He had a chapter in his book and talked about, hey, this isn't a disease that we have to find a moonshot cure for, right? That everything exists today. And that's when I started. I wrote a speech in Toastmasters called Connect the Dots, because everything exists today to help end homelessness. And so when I retired, I was going to look for unique ways, for best practices around the country and even around the world. And I'm actually excited, because tomorrow morning I'm doing a presentation to the main homeless shelter here in Tulsa that can't fix why people are becoming homeless right now, because you have to deal with the not in my backyard people and the people that think people choose to be homeless. I mean, that's insane. But we certainly can get people off the street today. And I'm hoping to start a revolution that way.
I love that. I'm so connected to your mission because, as a mindset coach, I like to get people out of, dead end employment and jobs that aren't really fulfilling them so that they can live their purpose, spend time with their family, do the things that are important to them as opposed to living a life of corporate slavery. And I haven't been able to kind of crack the code on how we can help homeless people or people that have no resources to even get started, to get up and go to a job. And as someone who has extensive experience in sales myself, I'm hearing everything that you're saying is true. It's like right in front of your face, right? I want to go back to something that you said earlier, because you said that unemployment is better than underemployment. And I think that that's very important. I wanted to drill that point in because a lot of people, they overlook time opportunity, energy opportunity. So like if you have a job that isn't fulfilling your need financially, but it's also taking away all of your energy, right? All of the opportunity for innovation to come up with new ideas. I think that's a big point to point out. Have you ever thought about that as well?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you think about it, we spend more waking hours at work than we do with family. So if you're in a situation that's just sucking the soul out of you for 8 hours a day or more, you can't be a good parent, you can't be a good spouse, you can't be a good friend. So absolutely. That's why I get so excited about sales careers, because I thought about this a few weeks ago, that it's like, my message, I'm selling hope. Because if you don't have hope, it's really hard to do anything, right? And there's a subset of people that I'm working with. I never would have thought about it when I started this, but it's people who've been incarcerated. And you think about, the challenges of finding a good job today. Now, put down that you've done time. That's even more so. And so the message that I talk about on how to go land your first sales job is perfect for someone like that, because it's talking about helping people. And the message that you're using to get that job becomes so powerful, because you're basically telling someone, look, I'm unhappy with where I am in my life. I either made mistakes in the past or I missed out on some opportunities. And I figured out the best way to improve my life and give me the future I want for my family is helping you sell your stuff. You just need to get in front of the right person that goes, whoa, I just hit the lottery, man. This person is going to be so motivated. What they don't know about product knowledge, I can teach them, but they are so motivated. And I want to tap into that energy.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. So take us through the process. What does it look like for somebody coming from a homeless situation to finding employment as a sales representative, and then taking it to the next level? What does that look like?
Well, I want to break this up a little bit, because if you're homeless, you need to get situated first. Something that a lot of people don't understand, and it depends on the city, but roughly 40% of the homeless population are working. That blows your mind. It blew my mind. But so you need to get situated, because you think about it, people are willing to work, but where do they put their stuff? There's families that are homeless. And so who's going to take care of the children? But I'll just put it as someone who's got all that taken care of, and whether they're working now or unemployed, but they have kind of a base. They don't have to worry about what you and I take for granted. So you figure out, first off, what are you going to sell? Well, first thing, you take a look at what interests you. That are you into cars? Are you into computers? You're into games? That's the first step. Now, you don't have to love what you're selling. And I use myself as an example all the time. I spent 20 years in IT sales. I'm not a nerd, and this really came home to me one afternoon, because I always bonus the help desk people. Because they were the front and center of our company, right? So I became very close to all of them, and they invited me to a Friday afternoon, just after work virtual, party. And so I showed up and it was kind of sad because, they were talking about video games and, all this other stuff. And I'm just dying here going, doesn't anyone want to talk about sports? All that to say is that you don't have to, be passionate about what you're selling. It helps, but I use, I'm the perfect example that if you understand it, and, I did have a passion for representing some cutting edge technology. And I think, it's probably a good point to point out, one of the myths about sales, professional sales, is it's not about high pressure. It's not about tricking somebody, using the right words or whatever to get someone to buy something that they may or may not need. Sales is simply having a conversation. I always, you mentioned my superpower, that I always told people that I never sold anything. I figured stuff out, meaning that I never convinced anyone they needed my platform. We did it for virtual labs. Instead, I found people who are already in the market and then showed them why I was the best option to go with. And I want to focus on I was the best option. It was more Bill Becker than my company, because again, when you think about sales, they're not actually buying the features or benefits of what you're selling. In business to business sales, they're also buying peace of mind. And I'll tell you what that means. If you go buy the wrong TV, you go buy the wrong, grill, you're out a few $100, right? Or you just live with it. If you make the wrong purchasing decision for your job, it could cost you your career. So people need to feel good that it's not their money, but it's the company's money. And they want to feel good that these, hundreds of thousands and even millions of dollars is not going to come back to haunt them. And having a good salesperson that has a good conversation, all the nuts and bolts, you can have engineers on both sides work that out, but you just want them to feel good. And it's the same thing, if you're coming from a bad job or you just got off the street, you can use that situation to go out and land your first sales job. I always called this my come to Jesus speech, but basically it's like you get in front of someone who can say yes. You're not going to apply online. You're not going to go through HR. You're going to find someone who has the power to say yes, to give you that job. And see, you're already selling. You're selling yourself, right? But you can get in front of this person, either face-to-face or virtually. And you go, you know what, Bill? This is what's going on in my life. I made some mistakes. I went on, I had a bad run of luck. And I finally realized that the only way I'm going to be able to give my family and myself the future I want is helping you sell your stuff. And that's where the power comes in. It's like this person is motivated. I will say, like I always did when I was, selling, it's like I feel I could have said that in fewer words.
All right. So you were saying that you've never had to sell anybody anything.
Yeah, it's people ask me what's the biggest change in sales over the last 5 to 10 years, and it's the fact that prospects are way more educated by the time they talk to a salesperson. There's this debate going on, is AI is going to replace salespeople? No, it's not, because AI only can go off of stuff that's already out there, right? And so people come, they have a base knowledge of what they know about your product or service, where the salespeople come in, good salespeople, is helping them get over that final hump. So if you're talking about IT services, there's going to be integration issues, right? There's going to be data privacy issues. There's going to be security issues. So while you're having a conversation with your prospect, you're also having conversations with the legal department, with their purchasing department. And, some of the best salespeople I see were project managers in a previous life. You know, they weren't out there being all personable. They know their spreadsheets and everything. They have good time management skills. An area that I see more and more are teachers who have great communication skills, time management skills, that they're leaving the teaching profession in droves because of all the stuff that's going on with teachers nowadays, and using those skills and making more money than they could ever imagine, because everybody knows teachers don't make much money.
Mhm. Yes, indeed. So that's super interesting that somebody can, essentially make something out of nothing. You don't need any skills, you don't need any degrees, you don't need, too many connections. Maybe you need to know somebody or another. But you're essentially saying that you can find a product or service of your own and you can sell that. Is that right?
Yeah. So, I mean, the beauty of sales careers is you don't need an education, you don't need previous service, and you can get a job with a company that's not even actually hiring at the moment. Think about this: companies exist to make a profit. They
Mhm.
have revenue, they have expenses. I always like to say, any idiot can cut expenses. But if you get a decision maker, an owner, a VP of sales or whatever, that in front of them, and show them that you can help them increase new revenue, either selling more of their stuff now or opening up a new market, you're going to get the opportunity. And that doesn't really happen in any other type of sale. And I'll take it one step further, because you talked about creating something. Sales is the one job where you can go out and create your own job and sell it to the company of your choosing. I did that a couple times. The first time, so I started out in radio sales, did that for several years, called on traditional radio advertisers, right? Furniture stores, car dealers, restaurants. I wanted to separate myself from all the other radio salespeople, including the ones at my station. So I went after non-traditional revenue, and it was grocery products and things. The place where it really took off was recruitment advertising, help wanted advertising. So are you or someone you know a nurse? Guess what? Just lost 95% of the audience. It doesn't matter. But if you were a nurse, or you had a friend or family member, you're going to listen to that commercial. You talk about the opportunity. And then we had phone numbers, went out and bought a bunch of phone numbers that are tied to answering services. And so you call this specific number, you call it, and here's another little commercial about this hospital that had this opportunity for nurses. And it worked amazingly well, because it was direct response advertising at its finest, right?
Mhm.
No one knew about that phone number unless they listened to the radio ad. And that's, with risk comes opportunity. Car dealers don't know that the 20 ads they ran on WXYZ radio actually helped them sell any cars over the weekend.
Mhm.
But recruitment advertising, whether it worked or not. And when it did, not only can you re-sign that client, but then you can go out and use that success story to get other clients. And so I realized I had not met a lot of the clients, the recruitment clients I had. So I said, well, what does it matter if they're across town or they're in another state? Because the radio group I worked for had radio stations all over the country. And so I tried to sell that up the food chain and got turned down. We were in Tulsa and the decision makers were in Atlanta.
Mhm.
And that's a very important lesson, is I could only talk to someone who could say no. I couldn't get in front of someone who say yes. But I found out another radio group. So it was Clear Channel Radio at the time. Today it's called iHeartMedia. Had 4 senior vice presidents in the world. One of them just happened to be 30 minutes away from me. So I called him up, met for breakfast in this little cafeteria in Claremore, Oklahoma, and gave him my vision of having this recruitment advertising. I didn't have a business plan. I didn't have any, papers or spreadsheets to show. I just said, this is what I want to do. And he goes, let's do it. This company did not have a plan to start a recruitment advertising division. They certainly didn't have the budget set aside to hire someone like myself. But I had a great idea. They believed in the plan and hired me to implement the plan. And that's the beauty. You can do that anywhere.
Yeah, that is beautiful. So you can take nothing and turn it into something. If you have an idea and you have the grit and the motivation to bring it into the real world, make it tangible, then there's nothing that can stop you. That's very enlightening and very empowering to a lot of people that's listening right now. What is it?
I
Go ahead.
won't tell you because I love this. I just love the creativity and just the idea hopefully gets people thinking. So several years ago, there was this Uber driver and he made $250,000 a year selling jewelry to his riders. Now it was legit, right? And you can Google, I think the articles on Fortune or Forbes website, but he was so successful that Uber outlawed the practice. But you just got to love the idea that, that's the beauty of being able to sell and you create whatever you want. You can go into business for yourself. You can, create a job and sell it to, the company you want to work for. It's just, this is why I talk about it all the time. I say that I'm evangelizing about sales careers because it can help so many people. It's the most equitable job I think there's in the world.
I think you're right. And it's undervalued. I mean, a lot of people have a negative stigma around salesmen, sleazy salesmen, forcing you to do things that you don't want. And in my experience, they exist, but I also see a lot of heart-centered, salespeople that actually do want to make an impact, do want to help you with something that you need help with, not creating a need and then filling it, but finding a need, exposing a need, and then filling it.
Well, and you talked about mindset earlier. That's so important here. And I'll give you a great example. Sales is often treated as the job of last resort. Can't find anything else, I'll take this job. And right after I started thinking about sales careers and talking about it was in the early 2000s. I started interviewing salespeople just to get ideas. And so this guy, he was in his early 20s and making $100,000, six figures, selling cars. This is like 2002. A little bit later, we had to go and get a new van for our 5 kids. And so obviously, anytime I come across a salesperson, I'm talking about and whatever. And this guy goes, yeah, he goes, I'm just doing this until something better comes along. Yet across town, a guy half his age making bank. And it's all in the mindset. And if you treat it like, I'm just doing this till something better, that's probably how it's going to end up. But if you treat it as an opportunity you were given that, it's all on you, that's the beauty of sales, because I wanted to control my own destiny. That's why I also never wanted to be a sales manager. If you're a sales manager, your destiny is, in the hands of the 6, 8, 12 people you're managing.
Right. Do you find there to be a difference between, like 100% commission jobs versus a base plus commission?
Yeah, and I talk a lot about that. There's a chapter in the book that the majority of good professional jobs will have a base and then plus commission. And there's all kinds of variations of that. It could be a draw versus commission. If you have a base, say you have a base of $70,000, everything you sell for that year is going to be on top of that $70,000. That $70,000 is just there, so you don't worry about making your rent or mortgage payment, put food on the table, but you're incentivized to go sell a lot. You can also have a draw where that $70,000 goes against the commission. There's just all kinds of variation. There are 100% commission jobs. I think a lot of car sales jobs are that. Real estate is like that, but with risk comes reward. You go out and you sell a house, you can make $40,000 off that one sale. But the beauty is you can choose. You can choose what you sell, who you sell it for, and what your comp plan is. Everything's negotiable. That's also kind of the cool thing about when you go out and create your own sales job. At some point, you're going to have to make a presentation on how you want to be paid, and you created it yourself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and there's nothing better than that. There's nothing better than putting the power back in your hands for your destiny. And so many people are afraid of it, but like you said, big risk, big reward.
It's so true. I just love how the opportunity it is to change lives, because it's just there's I talked about unemployment and underemployment, and I think college is getting a different view today. When I started doing this years ago, my kid's mother, who was a teacher and had a couple degrees, she wasn't crazy when I would say, look, college is not for everyone. And we all know someone who has a college degree that what they're doing today has nothing to do with their degree. So it's not a given. It's also, the whole thing with school loans and everything. So today there's so many opportunities out there that don't require, and I'm not anti-college. I mean, I have a son who's an engineer. I have a son who's a financial analyst. They couldn't get those jobs without a college degree, but it's just, if you don't want to put in the time, like me, when I grew up, I wanted to be a veterinarian. I found out I'm not going to school that long.
That's out. That's out. So tell us a little bit about, maybe a success story of somebody that you helped. What's possible when we work with Bill Becker?
Sure. I mentioned, a group, I think I did, about, people who've been incarcerated. And so I sat down with this, and this was locally where, I got to meet some people face to face. And it's one of the questions you kind of ask yourself at the beginning of this is, where do I want to be in 2 years? And she held up her leg and she goes, I want this monitor off my foot. It's like, wow, right? That is something that a lot of us can't comprehend. And she has to be at home at certain times, or, she's considered escape. So the idea is that, she really was buying into this, and she got excited. And people hear nope all the time. And to have that hope is just, even if they haven't got there yet, just because, it's a journey. I mean, it could be a couple weeks, it could be a couple months, but just imagine that, going to bed tonight thinking that you actually have a chance now. That is just like, it's going to be the same thing every day. So there's a couple of people locally that I've been working with, and I mean, that's exciting to see. I do this. I have coaching. I have courses. That I charge for, but there's also just the passion and excitement I see in people's lives. That it's the ultimate win-win. And it's the same thing, on the homeless thing too. That there's no capitalistic play there. It's just, I have been very lucky in my life. I've been down and out. If you read my story, I mean, I was gonna swan dive off a bridge 8 years ago, but I got a second chance and I took advantage of it. And I just, I can't do anything about people becoming homeless. But there's no reason in this country today for people to be homeless more than a day or so. And I'm very excited about some things that are coming down the pike for that we're going to get a couple of success stories. And then my goal is, you're going to hate me because you can't get away from my face and my message. I'm going to be the ultimate going viral thing that most of your listeners and viewers are probably too young to remember Hands Across America. But back in the 80s, there's a big African famine. And so that's where the song We Are the World came from. And then The Canadian guys did a Christmas song for it too. Actually, it was the British singers. But then in the U.S., because the U.S. loves to do, events, had this big thing called Hands Across America, where everyone, held hands. There was a few gaps. I participated in that.
Mhm.
Did I help feed anybody in Africa? No. And that was before social media. So I
Mhm.
know that once we get a couple of these success stories in, it's going to be TikTok and Twitter and everybody, and just it's going to be huge, and people can actually see that, like, you know what, I helped get Cindy or Mary or Bob off the street. I have physical proof of what I did, my donation, or I helped give them a ride to, go get a driver's license or whatever. That it's going to be a big thing, and I'm happy to get it started. And once it takes off, this is not going to be about Bill Becker. This is going to live on, beyond me. I'm just a dork that's, stubborn enough to get it started.
It's a legacy move.
It's a legacy move. Yeah. I'm something that, my kids will go, hey, my old man wasn't too bad.
Yes, indeed. That's a good feeling. That's a good feeling. So now I know somebody listening right now is super inspired. Maybe they're feeling like their back might be against the wall. I know that sales is not a last resort job, but for so many people trying to do something different, I know that they're inspired to go ahead and learn a little bit more about you, maybe have a one-on-one conversation with you. What do you say to that person? What is that next step? How do we get a little bit closer to you and
Sure.
get the opportunity to work with you?
There's a couple sites, thejobnobodydreamsof.com. You can, learn about my story and more information about the book. There's some articles there, and there's a click there too. You can go to the courses, or you can go to academy.thejobnobodydreamsof. It's kind of the same thing. There's two courses there. The one of them is for experienced salespeople to go out and create their own sales job. That's but the first course on landing your first sales job, the first lesson is free, and there's a lot of information. It tells you exactly what's there, what's expected of you, because this is not just listening to Bill and everything's going to be all right. There's some homework there, and I think one of the things I bring to the table on this whole thing is I'm going to be your accountability partner. So thejobnobodydreamsof.com or academy.thejobnobodydreamsof.com. You can find, and you also see, the videos there that I'm self-deprecating, that this is not just very serious lectures. Making fun of myself served me well throughout my career, and it's how I still do stuff.
So this is something that's super fun, super comfortable, something that you can kind of do at your own pace. There's no pressure, but there's a lot of reward on the back end.
Huge reward. And it's 100% guaranteed. If you do the work, you get your money, and don't get a job, you get your money back. And that's how confident I am. Like I said, there's some homework assignments, and you have to show that you did the work. And the course was a little bit different too. So because over the years, I've bought online courses on dog cancer, comedy writing, other stuff. And I did like jump around to different lessons. Some lessons I didn't do. The platform I chose for this course was one of the few where I could lock it. Like, you can't go to lesson number 2 until you do everything in lesson number 1. And it's so important to follow this. And if you do all that, you're going to get an opportunity.
It's going to be a big change. It's going to be a huge change. So if anybody's listening right now and this message is resonating with you, this does sound like the right next step for you, I want to invite you and encourage you to go ahead and take that next step. We are going to link it down below. So find the link. Depending on where you're watching, it could be above, left, right, below. But don't hesitate. Go ahead and click that link. Let's get in touch with Bill. We have you here for just a little bit longer, so I have a couple of more questions for you.
Yeah,
I'm
of course.
curious to know, because change is hard, right? Change is hard for a lot of people to switch a career or to come out of a rut. Might be a little bit challenging. What do you think are some of the objections or resistances people might have to pursuing a new career in sales, and what do we say to them?
Well, I think, want to be like, what will people think? Or, I'm not a people person. I kind of alluded to that. You don't have to be a people person. It's, again, if you think about it, everybody's already a salesperson. If you've gone on a job interview, you're a salesperson. If you ask someone out on a date, you're a salesperson. If you asked, if you have a conversation, you're a salesperson. So you just need to have that mindset. It's like, hey, this is something I'm already doing. And I'm not, I don't need to be afraid because I'm going to be asked to do something. I'm having a conversation. That's the beauty. Again, today, if you're meeting with a prospect,
Mm-hmm.
they're already interested in
Mm-hmm.
what you have to, what you're representing, because no one's going to give you 30 minutes out of the kindness of their heart if they're not interested. So you just kind of have to sit here and think and go, yeah, this is just like common sense. And that's I think why I feel so good about this message, is because I don't have, this 15-step framework on, how to be a millionaire doing sales and stuff. I'm just talking simple stuff because I'm a simple man.
Mm-hmm.
And just like, hey, if you're not happy in your life, a sales career, and it's because of your job, a sales career is one of the few ways that you can change it without anyone else's help. You're not reaching out asking for help. You're going to reach out to a decision maker at a company to help them. It just happens to be it's going to help you as well. And that's, how awesome is that?
Yep, win-win situation.
Win-win.
I don't know that there's anything better. It's just a matter of getting creative, getting in touch with yourself. I think is very important, because everybody has a value to offer, but it's so common for people to overlook that value, and then they find themselves stuck in different situations. So I see the opportunity to work with you as an opportunity to kind of look within and see that, hey, yeah, I might have some more opportunities, some more options than I thought previously. Is that your experience?
It is. I do want to leave. I'm going to give everybody the secret success to sales. And it's so dumb, but it still stuns me. Every single week of my career, I got thanked for how fast I responded to an email request or returned a call.
Mm-hmm.
You think about that. That's insane that people go out of the way. I actually had a separate folder in my Outlook that I would store all these mementos, if you will. And early on, it's like, well, this is weird. I'm just doing my job. And after a while, I just thought, this is kind of cool. I'm glad that a lot of salespeople don't do that, because it makes me stick out that much easier. And the biggest sale I ever made was picked out of the junkyard. It was actually the original owner of the company that I retired from had tried to land this was Veritas. There's no national secrets here. And I remember seeing that one of the reasons they didn't choose this at the time is because there was not a timely response to their requests. And so I reached out to him. I said, hey, my name is Bill Becker. This is, my background. I said, the one thing that I can do better than anyone is quickly respond. And today, because most selling is virtual, you're working from home, you got email on your phone. I can't tell you the number of times that I replied to emails watching, the Mavs playing or watching a movie on the couch. When I lived in San Diego, I would get up, I would email clients from bed. It's just, it sounds insane, but it's such a way to stand out in life. Even if you're not in sales, it's something you should do anyway, because a lot of people aren't doing it, and it's a way to stick out, and it's a simple way to stick out.
Right. I see it as the art of communication. So my experience in sales have trickled over into, my personal relationships, my marriage. And eventually when my daughter can talk, I'll be communicating with her in a way that she can kind of wrap her mind around different perspectives. I really like the prospect of being able to offer a beneficial perspective to somebody in a way that they can accept it and move forward in a way that's beneficial for everybody involved. I can't say enough
Sure.
how valuable I believe that your service is, and how excited I am for anybody that's going to take advantage of it. You might have sold me. I might have to go ahead and check it out myself. I'm also, I feel like we haven't talked enough about the book. Can we tell us a little bit about your book?
Sure. So the job nobody dreams of, it came about because no one grows up wanting to be a salesperson. I mentioned I wanted to be a vet, too much school. Then I wanted to be a radio DJ. And I found out they don't make any money, unless you're in LA or New York. So I did the next best thing. I went into radio sales, and still got to hang out at the radio station every day. Did that for about 16 years. And so the book is first and foremost to, get rid of the myths about, sales. It starts out with me and what I call my bad day that, 9 years ago, where, I went through a rough divorce and I was broke and just gave up. And, I headed to this bridge, and, luckily I got stopped by a police officer and I got a second chance, and I joined this little company, and it was like 38 people at the time. And by the time I retired, there's like 175. And so I'm just using the book as a story to give people hope. I mentioned that several times, but it's like, hey, I'm a moron, but I had this great career in 2 different fields selling. And so there's a chapter about sales myths, and I do away with those. And then kind of a step-by-step how to go out and do it yourself. The very first thing I say in the promo video you'll see for the course is you don't need the course. Everything that you need to go out and land your first sales job is in the book. And, the course just adds some extra accountability and coaching for me. But I in several different places, it says, if you have a crummy job and everything, your life sucks. A sales job is a prescription for a life that sucks.
Right. Yeah, that's how you solve it. Yep. Yes, indeed. I'm completely inspired. And I know that there's a lot of mindset work that goes into it, a lot of personal development and becoming, that total package, becoming the best version of you. Is there anything that you recommend people do outside of selling, to become a better salesman?
Sure. I talk about this everywhere, is join a Toastmasters club. Toastmasters is not about always giving speeches. It's a great program. We're just learning communication skills. And, today they have virtual ones. So you don't even have to, leave your house, leave work. Just go to toastmasters.org. And I would highly recommend, the way people check out Toastmasters is just visiting the club, either in person and virtually. You're not going to be asked to speak. You just sit there and watch. And, they have clubs that meet morning, afternoon, nights, weekends, that regardless, whether you're going to be in sales or not, good communication skills are vital. And Toastmasters is just it's been around forever, and it's just a great way to, the other thing too is just to, learn your virtual meeting skills. So Zoom has free accounts. So I would recommend to go to, Zoom and get a free account, and then go to Eventbrite. So it's Event, Brite. And that's a clearinghouse of meetings that you can sign up for. So like I go there and I sign up for homeless meetings. I watch a homeless meeting in Orange County and one in Richmond, Virginia. And so you can find all kinds of meetings that right now that have your interests. Maybe it's sports, maybe it's music or whatever. And just attend those meetings. Just learn how to, sign in, how to mute your microphone. And yeah, it just communication skills. Again, even if you decide sales is not for you, whatever you do for a living, good communication skills is important.
It's going to require some good communication. That's for sure. That's for sure. And I want to second your idea of going to Toastmasters. I went to Toastmasters. Actually, I found a Toastmasters group for coaches. And it was one of the best moves that I've ever made. While I was feeling around in the dark, I had no clue what I wanted to do, but I needed to do something, right? So I got on the app Meetup, and they had Toastmasters on there. And I'm like, what is this? And just
Yeah.
like you said, you go in for a couple of first meetings, you sit back and you watch. And before you knew it, I was getting on stage and I was super nervous, But I learned that there's competitions, there's district meetings, there's so much networking, there's just so much value in Toastmasters. I just wanted to second that.
That's how I got started in stand-up. Is I started to do some humorous competitions.
Mm. Oh, you do
And
stand up too, so we got a whole nother podcast episode.
well, yeah, it's tougher now because I'm old. The stand-up opportunities are, usually later. But yeah, I had a sports comedy show on YouTube a million years ago. That think of the Saturday Night Live news, just
Right.
sports related, and so I got to do. And again, just like I do in my course, or the two courses, I make fun of myself. So little things will pop up. An example is like one of the very first things that I talk about asking questions. Questions are important. So this little pop up shows up. It says, first question is, why does Bill always wear a hat?
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm vain. I'm bald,
Bang, bang, ball game. Oh, I'm not. Bang, bang, ball game.
There you go. There you go.
We're gonna be wearing some hats for sure. That's dope. That's dope. Okay, Bill. Before I let you go, I got one more question for you.
Okay.
And this for anybody listening right now. I want to give them an actionable step, right? So, what is one thing anybody listening right now can do to live a little bit more by design and a little bit less by default?
That's a great question. That's an important question. So I want to make sure. Um, just know that in the end, you have the power to change your life. You may not think it at times. I certainly didn't 9 years ago. I came to the conclusion that I overreacted, and I was happy I got a second chance. But today, you have the power to change your life. It may be getting another job or getting another position in the job. But there's so many resources, both, face to face and virtual, that are out there and people willing to help, that you just don't ever give up hope. I've mentioned this several times. I feel like I'm selling hope. And if you have hope, everything else shouldn't matter. Just hang on. In sales, you never lose if you don't give up. And I'm the perfect example in life. If you don't give up, and I tried, but if you don't give up, I'm living proof it gets better.
I love that. I love that. So we're gonna hold on to our hope. We don't give up. There's always going to be a way. And Bill is here to support you if you are resonating. And I know that if you're listening right now, chances are you're definitely resonated. 95% of people who didn't resonate, like Bill said, left right in the beginning. So I'm super happy, super excited, Bill. Thank you for spending some time with us.
Thank you, Talmadge, for having me.
Yes, indeed. And to everybody else, as always, love, be well, and don't forget to have the guts follow your guts. Peace. Didn't want to hit the end record.